and let's go inside databases. Very good afternoon to everybody, and I will now be going and talking about databases. So our software basically supports a large variety of databases. For example, we have SQL Server open in front of us. It can also work with Oracle. It can also work with Teradata. It can also work with MS Access, or for that reason any database which supports third-party applications like ours to directly interface and play with it. For the sake of demonstration, which I will now be indulging in, I have this SQL Server database which is open in front of me. I can see that I have this database automation new, which further has one table inside it. The table contains two columns, name and age. The name being a character based field and age being a numeric field, which I have gone and made for this particular demonstration. Coming back to a software automation anywhere, let me go and create a new task inside the task editor. So I'm clicking on new, I go inside task editor, and that takes me inside our task editor where we have our entire list of commands at our disposal, where we can create a script from scratch. So the objective is basically we have two fields, name and age, as you just saw, and we need to accept the values of these two fields from the end user and write down the values inside the underlying table. That is basically what we want to do. So for this we will initiate our interaction with the database. So as you can see, I am currently inside the task editor. I go and maximize my database commands, and within database the first command that we are going to be using is the connect statement. Connect statement, whether we are writing into a database, whether we are reading from a database, you always need to first of all establish a connection to the database. So I'm just dragging a connect statement to the right, and first and foremost I have to go and create the connection string. So I will proceed now to go and click on these ellipses. Here you can see we have got a whole list of providers which we can use. So for example, if I wanted to connect to Oracle, I could have chosen the Oracle provider. If I wanted to work with SQL, I'll be using the SQL provider. Similarly, for MS Access, we can use the Jet 4.0 provider if you're using the MDB extension, and for ACCDB extension you can use the Office 12.0 provider. So all of these providers, as you can see, are available right over here. So since our interaction involves working with SQL Server, so we will proceed to use the SQL Server provider that we have. I will proceed to click on next, which takes me into this next dialog where I can just go and pick up my server name. So as you can see, I've just clicked on this drop down over here, and in a moment's time it should just pop up and provide me with a list of servers which are available to me at the moment. And I am interested in connecting to the one which is installed on my system, which is the one that I've currently selected. I'll proceed to use Windows Authentication. Database which I want to go and work with is Automation New, the one that we just went and had a quick interface with earlier. And first and foremost, I will proceed to test the connection. It shows that it is succeeded, which is of paramount importance. I click on this and I go and save it. So my connection string is good and ready to be used. First and foremost, since the objective at hand involves accepting values from the user and writing into this database, so to that effect what we will do is we will go and create some variables, because after accepting the values from the user and writing them into the database, those values need to be stored somewhere, need to be held out somewhere in memory, and hence the use of variables. So I will click on add and I create a variable called name, which will store the data of my name field. Second variable that I will go and create is age, name and age. Name to hold the data of the name field, age to hold the data of the age field. So name and age, two variables that we have just made. And now begins our interaction with the user, where we have to ask him to populate these two variables so that these values can then be written into the underlying database. So I will proceed with going in and prompting the user to enter the values as per my requirement. So the prompt command is basically the command that we use for this user interaction. So I will drag the prompt for value command to the right. First and foremost, we can see over here the prompt command has the capability it can open on top of any window of our choice. I do not have any such requirement, so I will say let it not open on top of any specific window. So I'll say don't try it in any window, and then I am going to prompt the user. I will ask the user to enter his name. The same is then captured and stored inside this variable name over here, and we go and save it. That's one down. Similarly, another prompt command which we are bringing in, where again we will showcase our interest that we do not wish this information, this pop-up to come on top of any particular window, by choosing don't try it in any window. And value that we want this time is for the age variable, hence enter age this time. Value is to be assigned again inside an existing variable which is age, and we go and save it. So we have been able to capture both name and age. Once we have these two values, the next part of the job involves going and writing these two values inside our underlying database table. Things like your name of your server, your username, password, provider, and the version of SQL that you're going to be using should be known to the user who is going and doing these jobs which I am doing currently, because that is something the software will expect of the automation expert or the bot creator who is currently making this script. So name of my table, if I can just go back and check on that real quick, is dbur or automation. So I'm going to just go and pick up this table name. This contains two fields, name and age. Values to be inserted in have been picked up inside my two variables, name and age. So I'm going to say F2. F2 brings in my variable pop-up from where I can choose name, put in a comma, again F2, and the next variable which I'll choose in is age. So name and age, two variables whose values I've just inserted in. Value for the name variable will be kept inside single quotes. Reason being, this is a text-based field, and for text-based field, data has to be kept while passing in inside single quotes. That's a mandate from the underlying database. And once I have got this syntax properly framed over here, I can go and save it, and that kind of gives me the statement over here. And once all these actions have been done, I can finally proceed to go and disconnect from the database at hand. So I am going to go and save this disconnect statement also, so that I don't have any unnecessary database connections lying open. Further, I can go and save my script. It's very important that I do that. So I can create a new folder. I'll give it a name as demo something maybe, and within that I'm going to set this as the default folder. I'm going to say this name is database, right, so that we know that we are writing into the database. Giving meaningful names always helps, because helps us recollect that why in the first case did we make this script for. Now I can go and run this, and here we go about executing it, and I should be seeing the runtime window coming up any moment. There I can see the runtime window on the lower right corner of my screen. On the top left corner I can see the prompt window, and here I will enter my name, some dummy name. For example, I'm entering ABC, and again the second prompt for age is 1, and I click on that too, and that value should have been inserted in the database. So I click on my database over here, and I can just go and run this query real quick over here. Execute, and that gives us one good value over here. So we were able to get that one good record inside of our database. So that accomplishes this particular activity where we wanted to get some data inside this particular table. But there's a limitation with this script. The script can only process one record at a time. What if I wanted this script to be able to allow me to enter as many records as I wanted? To give it the additional capabilities, I will go and create another variable which I will name as choice. And to this variable I will give an initial value as yes. The whole purpose of creating this variable is that after inserting every record, we are going to go and ask the user, do you want to add more records or not? And initially we have given a value of yes. So I'm going to go and save this. So I have another variable at my disposal now. So once this record has been inserted, I will then proceed to go and ask the user that do you wish to add more records, yes or no. So for that I have a prompt for yes no command, which gives me the option of choosing between two radio buttons in simple yes and no format. The interpretation of yes and no has to be given by us. So our interpretation of yes is that the user wants to add more records. So if the user wants to add more records, then he chooses to press yes radio button. Otherwise, if he chooses to abort this data entry, then he can choose no. So some meaningful message so that the user is clear that choosing an option which will result in what response. So we are adding records yes, aborting entry no. Output is captured inside the variable called choice. So whatever the user chooses is stored inside this variable choice, and I am going to now save this. So you can see this has added this new line over here, prompt for yes no, add more records, yes for insertion, no for abortion. Now in case the user said yes or whether he chose no, we need to accordingly repeat this process or abort this process. To be able to do that, we need to be able to loop through and check for the response which the user gave over here. So I am going to now go and bring in a loop. So I'll say loop, and we have an option over here, loop based on condition. So I'm going to drag this loop condition statement and I'm going to put it on the first line. Loop condition, we're going to drag it and keep it on the first line, and our condition, which is the deciding factor, that whether or not we are going to be looping, is the value of this variable. And which variable would that be? We'll click on edit and specify the same. That variable in perspective is choice variable. So it's a loop while choice is equal to yes. So as long as choice is yes, this loop needs to keep repeating itself over and over. So I'll say loop while variable is choice, which we have just specified, equal to yes, and I save it and save it again. So you can see it has gone and given me this particular loop and loop statement, and I'm going to take this end loop and I'm going to position it appropriately so that you can see my connect and disconnect has been properly forged. So you can see the connect statement is just before the loop and the disconnect statement is just after the end loop statement, and everything else lies within the body of this loop statement. Let's take a quick dry run as to what is now going to happen when I run this script. It's going to initially establish a connection with the database at hand. It's going to check for the value of choice. Is it yes? Yes, the value of choice is yes. It will ask me for the name, it will ask me for the age, the value is inserted in the underlying table, and then it again prompts me, do you want to add more records, yes or no? If the person says yes, whether it says yes or no, in either case it will go back to this loop, because that's where it's supposed to go. As a result of this end loop statement over here, takes you back to the beginning of this loop. Here it checks the value of choice. If the user had given yes, it will enter this loop, repeat the whole process. If the user had entered no, this process will cease to execute right over here. So this is our simple script, which should now allow me to enter as many records as I wish. So I'm going to go and save it, and we're going to go and run it, and let's see what happens. So we're going and running this script, and here we go. Enter name. Suppose I'm going to enter DEF or any other value of my choice. Age is 1. Now you can see this new dialog has come this time. This is the prompt for yes no command. You can see it gives me two radio buttons, yes or no. The interpretation of yes or no has been given by us. If the user wishes to add more records, he will choose yes, otherwise he will choose no. So if I say yes, then this process repeats, and again it asks me for some name. So name is GHI, enter age, some value again, and this process will keep on repeating. So again, if I choose yes, it again goes back inside this loop, again asks me for my name and age. Do you want to further add record? This time I will choose no. So once I choose no, I should be thrown out of this loop. Let me go and check my table over here. I can see all those records have been added in. So as you can see in this demonstration, we saw how we could connect to a database. We also saw how we can use the loop statement. We also got ourselves familiarized with the prompt command. It allows us to interact with the user. Different modes, prompt for value, prompt for yes, and last but not the least, we disconnected. Also, we saw that how we can use some variables over here. So that was something which we just did. So looking forward to interact with you again. Thank you.